Earth was a forgotten world, a pale blue dot drifting on the edge of known space, hidden away in the vastness of the galaxy where no one took notice of its existence. The Galactic Empire had long since swept through the stars, expanding its reach to every corner of the universe. But Earth remained an anomaly left behind by all those who believed it was insignificant and unworthy of attention, its people unaware of the grand history that lay beneath their feet, the history of a civilization that had once wielded power beyond imagination, and then chose to vanish, leaving behind only whispers of what had been a legend forgotten by time itself. At the heart of Earth's greatest secret lay an ancient supercarrier, a massive ship buried deep beneath the surface of the planet, so well hidden that no one in the modern age even knew it existed. Not even the greatest minds on Earth had any inkling of the massive warship's existence. It had been placed there centuries ago by an unknown faction of Earth's own ancestors, people who had foreseen the coming of an age when their descendants would need a force strong enough to defend themselves from the dangers of the universe, a time when humanity would no longer be the helpless bystanders to the Empire's conquests. And so they built the supercarrier and hid it away for future generations to find only when the time was right. Admiral Lucas Harrington had long known something was wrong. He had studied Earth's history with an intensity that bordered on obsession, but it wasn't until a few months ago that his suspicions began to crystallize. He had uncovered ancient texts and maps hidden in long-forgotten archives, all pointing to something buried deep beneath the planet, something powerful enough to challenge the might of any empire in the galaxy. His research led him to an underground vault hidden beneath a remote desert, a place no one had dared to explore for centuries, and when he entered it, the truth was revealed to him in the form of a colossal metallic structure more magnificent and terrifying than anything he had ever seen. His heart raced as he stood before the massive supercarrier, its hull dark and ancient, but still pulsing with an energy that seemed almost alive. He had only one thought in his mind. This was the key to humanity's survival and its future. The people of Earth had no idea what they were about to face, but he was ready to fight for them, ready to awaken the sleeping giant that had waited for so long. The Galactic Empire was already on the move, its fleet advancing toward Earth's solar system with military precision and brutal intent. They had detected a disturbance near the planet and believed Earth to be nothing more than an insignificant speck in the void. But they were wrong. The Empire had no idea that their next conquest would be their biggest mistake. As the Empire's ships drew closer, Lucas knew time was running out. He had no more time to prepare, no more time for second thoughts. He had to act now before the Empire's forces arrived in full force. The people of Earth had no idea what was coming, but soon they would realize they were no longer the passive inhabitants of a forgotten world. They were about to become the epicenter of a galactic storm that would change the course of history forever. The Empire's fleet advanced steadily through the dark expanse of space, their ships gleaming like menacing stars as they cut through the void, each vessel bristling with advanced weaponry and technology that had allowed the Empire to crush entire civilizations without mercy or hesitation. Earth had been nothing more than a rumor to them, a remote planet on the outskirts of known space, an insignificant speck with no strategic value. The Empire had never even considered it a worthy target, yet something had changed. A series of mysterious signals had led them to this point. The sensors had picked up unusual energy fluctuations from deep within the solar system, and they had come to investigate. As the fleet neared Earth's orbit, a feeling of unease began to settle over Admiral Carrick of the Empire's flagship, the Dreadstar. His instincts told him something wasn't right. He had seen countless worlds fall to the Empire's might, and none had resisted as effectively as the readings indicated Earth might be doing. But his rational mind rejected the idea. Earth was too primitive to pose a real threat. Despite the strange energy readings, there was no way a planet like Earth could have anything capable of fighting back against the Empire's forces. He dismissed the thought quickly, focusing instead on the task at hand. It would make short work of this world and move on to the next conquest. But Carrick was not the only one sensing something off. A quiet unease had spread through the fleet's officers and soldiers as they approached the planet. They had never encountered a world that felt this unknown, this mysterious. It was as if the very air of the place was charged with anticipation, but the admiral refused to show weakness and ordered the fleet to prepare for engagement. The Empire had never backed down from a fight, and he would not start now. On Earth, the time had come to reveal the supercarrier to the world, but the process was not as simple as just activating the dormant ship. For centuries, the massive vessel had been dormant, its systems powered down, its crew long gone. It would require careful coordination to bring it back online and awaken its full potential. Admiral Harrington and his team had been working tirelessly to prepare for this moment, but there was no way to know if the ship would respond to their commands or if it was even still functional. Standing at the helm of the underground command center, Harrington exchanged a tense glance with Commander Emily Grant. The two of them had spent countless hours poring over data and making plans, but now the moment had arrived. There was no more time for hesitation. "Are we ready?" Harrington asked, his voice steady, but his hands clenched into fists. "As ready as we'll ever be, sir," Grant replied, her voice tight, with a mix of anticipation and fear. She knew this was the turning point for humanity. Everything depended on what happened next. Harrington nodded and activated the system. The ground rumbled as ancient machinery groaned to life deep beneath the planet's surface. A low hum filled the air. As the supercarrier's dormant systems flickered on one by one, the massive warship began to stir from its slumber, its immense engines pulsing with energy, and its sensors sweeping the vast expanse of space above Earth's atmosphere. On the surface, the people of Earth had no idea what was unfolding beneath their feet. They went about their daily lives, unaware of the storm that was about to hit them. They had no idea that the supercarrier was now awake and ready to defend them from the coming threat. Up in space, the Empire's fleet was about to make their move, but as they began their approach to Earth, a sudden burst of energy erupted from the planet's surface. Their sensors blared with alarms as a massive object began to rise from the ground, a massive ship unlike anything they had ever seen before, rising from the Earth itself. This was no ordinary world, no primitive colony waiting to be conquered. This was something else entirely, something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. As the supercarrier slowly emerged from the surface of Earth, the Empire's fleet hovered at the edge of the planet's atmosphere, momentarily stunned by what they were witnessing. The massive ship, an imposing structure of dark metal and strange energy fields, rose from the depths of the planet like an ancient leviathan awakening from a deep slumber. Its sheer size was overwhelming, dwarfing every ship in the Empire's fleet. What they had assumed to be a primitive world was now proving to be something entirely different. Admiral Carrick's jaw clenched as he watched the enormous warship rise, its engines flaring to life with an intensity that sent shockwaves across the solar system. The readings from his ship's sensors were off the charts, confirming his worst fear. Earth wasn't the insignificant backwater he believed it to be. It was a world with power beyond comprehension, a world that now posed a direct threat to the Empire. "This is impossible," Carrick muttered, his fingers dancing across the command console, trying to make sense of the data flashing before him. How could a world like this have a ship of that size, and with that kind of energy output? His officers scrambled to maintain control of the fleet, trying to adjust their strategies on the fly. The Empire had always prided itself on overwhelming force, but now they were faced with an unknown enemy, one that was already demonstrating its ability to command weapons far beyond the Empire's expectations. The ships in Carrick's fleet, sleek and formidable in their own right, seemed insignificant in comparison to the emerging supercarrier. Back on Earth, Admiral Lucas Harrington stood at the command center, staring at the massive holographic display showing the supercarrier now fully emerged, its weapon systems coming online. His heart raced, but there was no time for hesitation. The supercarrier was not just humanity's last line of defense. It was their first strike. Earth had no choice but to fight, and they would do it with everything they had. "Commander Grant, prepare the fleet for launch," Harrington ordered, his voice calm but commanding. We can't afford to wait. They'll be here any minute." Grant nodded, her hands flying over the controls as she issued orders to Earth's fleet of newly commissioned warships. Each vessel had been constructed with the knowledge gathered from the Supercarrier and the advanced technology that had been unearthed in the past months. The ships were nothing like anything the Empire had ever seen before, sleek, agile, and equipped with weapons capable of tearing through even the most formidable enemy defenses. But it wasn't just the technology that would give them an edge. It was the humans behind the controls. The people of Earth, united for the first time in centuries, were ready to show the galaxy what they were capable of. As the human fleet launched from their bases across the planet, the atmosphere itself seemed to vibrate with the energy of their departure. Hundreds of warships shot into space, their engines blazing as they formed up around the Supercarrier. The once-forgotten planet was now a battlefield, and humanity was ready to take its place as a force to be reckoned with. In the Empire's fleet, confusion turned to panic. Carrick's flagship, *Dreadstar*, was one of the largest ships in the Empire, but even it was dwarfed by the size of Earth's Supercarrier. His officers scrambled to reassign targets, but it was clear the situation was spiraling out of control. "Prepare for battle," Carrick barked, his voice cold and firm despite the unease gnawing at him. "We've underestimated them, but we will not be defeated." The Imperial fleet braced for the confrontation, knowing this would be a fight unlike any they had ever faced. The human fleet was closing in, the Supercarrier looming large behind them like a shadow, ready to strike with unimaginable force. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Empire found itself facing a real challenge. The balance of power was shifting, and no one knew yet how the battle would unfold. But one thing was certain: Earth had just become a new player in the galactic game, and the Empire was about to learn just how costly their arrogance would be. The first salvo from Earth's Supercarrier came without warning. A blinding burst of energy shot from its massive weapons array, streaking across the void toward the nearest Imperial ship. The *Dreadstar* was the first to respond, its shields flaring as it tried to absorb the impact. But the energy was too concentrated, too powerful. The blast shattered its forward shields like glass, sending shockwaves through the massive ship. Within moments, the *Dreadstar* was engulfed in a second explosion that tore through its hull, ripping apart entire sections of the flagship. Admiral Carrick's grip tightened around the armrests of his chair as he watched the destruction unfold on his bridge. His eyes widened in disbelief as the mighty ship, once a symbol of the Empire's unchallenged supremacy, was reduced to a burning wreck in the blink of an eye. "Report," Carrick barked, his voice trembling with a mixture of rage and disbelief. "Sir, shields failing, engines offline. We're losing power across the ship," one of his officers stammered, trying to regain control of the situation. "The *Dreadstar* has sustained catastrophic damage. We're not going to make it." Carrick's face twisted with fury. This wasn't supposed to happen. This was Earth, a planet with no defenses, no military power. And yet, here they were, facing an enemy unlike any they had encountered in centuries. "We're not losing this fight," Carrick growled. "All ships, break formation. Target that Supercarrier now. If we can't take it down, we'll at least cripple its power." The Empire's remaining fleet, though shaken, sprang into action. A volley of plasma and missile fire erupted from their ships as they attempted to retaliate, but the human fleet was already closing in fast, its ships maneuvering with an agility that caught the Empire off guard. Earth's warships, though smaller in size, were nimble and heavily armed. Their weapons were laser-precise, striking with devastating force. Commander Emily Grant watched the battle unfold on the holographic display as the human fleet formed a battle line around the Supercarrier, shielding it from the incoming onslaught. Her voice rang out with calm authority, guiding the fleet through the chaos. "Stay tight. Keep your distance from their heavy guns. We've got the advantage in speed and firepower. They'll regret underestimating us." Her eyes flicked to the supercarrier's readouts, ensuring its weapon systems were fully operational. A wave of pride surged through her as the ship's enormous energy cannons powered up once more, ready to unleash another devastating volley. "Fire," Grant commanded, her voice unwavering. Another devastating pulse of energy shot out from the supercarrier, this time hitting multiple Imperial ships at once. One by one, they exploded, their remains scattering through space like shattered glass. The sheer scale of the destruction was unlike anything the Empire had ever experienced. The humans, once thought to be insignificant, were showing the galaxy just how dangerous they could be. The Empire's commanders were now desperate. Their ships began to break formation, scattering in every direction, hoping to avoid the supercarrier's deadly blasts. Carrick's flagship was barely holding together, and the rest of the fleet was in disarray. Despite their overwhelming numbers, the Empire's confidence was crumbling. They had underestimated Earth, and now they were paying the price. "Harrington," Carrick muttered, staring at the battle unfolding before him. "You should have stayed hidden." He slammed his fist on the console in frustration. But there was no turning back now. The tide of battle was against him, and for the first time in his career, he found himself questioning the Empire's absolute dominance. He had believed that no force could stand against them, but Earth had just shattered that illusion. The Empire's fleet, once a symbol of unrivaled power, was being torn apart by a force they never saw coming. Earth's supercarrier, a forgotten relic of humanity's past, had turned the tide in the most brutal way possible. Carrick's only hope now was to regroup and find a way to stop the supercarrier's relentless assault. But that hope was fading fast as more Imperial ships were reduced to drifting wrecks in the vast emptiness of space. The battle raged on, and the Galactic Empire was beginning to realize the bitter truth. They had made a grave mistake by underestimating Earth. The chaos in space seemed endless as the human fleet continued to push forward, their warships cutting through the darkness with terrifying precision. Every pulse of energy from Earth's supercarrier sent shockwaves through the Empire's fleet, disintegrating entire vessels in a flash. The Empire had underestimated humanity's ability to fight back, and now the consequences were playing out in real time. The humans weren't just defending their home. They were retaliating with a ferocity that sent a clear message to the Empire. Earth would not be conquered. Commander Emily Grant's ship, the Rising Fury *, darted between Imperial ships with incredible agility, firing devastating salvos as she moved. Her hands flew over the controls, guiding her ship through tight turns, avoiding the massive bursts of fire from the Empire's flagship and other warships. Earth's fleet had the advantage in speed, and she wasn't about to let it slip away. "Target their engines," Grant ordered, her voice crisp and unwavering. "Disable their mobility. We need to keep them off balance." Her crew responded immediately. The Rising Fury *''s weapon system blocked onto the nearest Imperial cruiser, and with a quick burst of fire, the ship's rear engines erupted into a ball of fire, sending the massive vessel careening out of control. It was the perfect tactic: disable the enemy's ability to fight back without outright destroying them, forcing the Empire's fleet to retreat or break apart. Above them, the supercarrier loomed like a silent sentinel, its massive hull glowing with power as it unleashed another devastating shot. The energy beam slammed into the hull of an Imperial dreadnought, sending it spiraling into the void. The Dreadstar *, once the pride of the Empire, was now just a floating hulk, drifting aimlessly among the wreckage of its own fleet. The supercarrier had proven its worth, and Earth's warships were relentless in their pursuit. On the bridge of the Dreadstar *, Carrick's frustration had turned into desperation. The reports were pouring in, and none of them were good. The human fleet, though smaller in numbers, had turned the tide of the battle with their advanced tactics, relentless firepower, and the sheer force of their hidden weapon. He had never expected this. His fleet was now scattered, broken, and on the verge of retreat. The humans weren't fighting to survive. They were fighting to conquer. to show that Earth was no longer a forgotten world, but a formidable power in its own right. "Admiral, we've lost communications with our outer fleets," one of his officers reported, his voice strained. "They're retreating. Panic is spreading throughout the ranks." Carrick slammed his fist down on the console, cursing under his breath. The battle was slipping away from him, and he knew it. The Empire had never faced an enemy like this, one that could turn the table so quickly. Humanity's ships were efficient, precise, and relentless, and the Supercarrier was the hammer that crushed everything in its path. "Pull back," Carrick ordered, his voice ragged with exhaustion and frustration. "We need to regroup and reassess. We'll need reinforcements." He wasn't even sure reinforcements would help. The humans had shown their hand, and they had more than enough firepower to take on the Empire's full force. The notion of invincibility that had long defined the Empire was rapidly collapsing. The longer this battle dragged on, the more Earth's power became undeniable. Carrick had to make a choice: fight and risk total annihilation, or retreat and live to fight another day. He had little faith in the Empire's ability to recover from this humiliation. Meanwhile, aboard the Rising Fury Asterisk, Grant's voice cut through the chaos of the battlefield. "Keep pushing forward. We've got them on the ropes. No mercy." The human fleet surged forward, and every shot from the Supercarrier and its supporting ships sent more of the Empire's fleet into disarray. It was a beautiful, synchronized dance of destruction. Earth had proven itself a force to be reckoned with, and there was no turning back now. With each passing minute, the Empire's resolve crumbled further. Carrick could feel the shift in momentum. The battle, once believed to be a guaranteed victory for the Empire, had become a nightmare from which there was no escape. The confidence the Empire had once held so dearly was shattered, and Earth was the force that had dealt the blow. As the human fleet closed in on the final remnants of the Imperial forces, the message was clear. Earth had awoken from its long slumber, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The remaining Imperial ships, battered and broken, were beginning to retreat into the void, their damaged hulls dragging through space like wounded animals. The once proud fleet that had been certain of its victory over Earth was now fleeing in disarray, desperately trying to escape the relentless onslaught from the human forces. Admiral Carrick's face was grim as he watched the retreat unfold on the holographic display. His fleet was in ruins, the vast majority of his ships either destroyed or incapacitated. There was no denying it now. Earth had shattered the Empire's vaunted superiority in a matter of hours. "Admiral, the fleet is disengaging," an officer reported, his voice shaky with disbelief. "Our reinforcements are still days away, and at this rate, we won't have enough firepower to repel another wave. Earth's Supercarrier is too powerful." Carrick stared at the flickering lights of the retreating ships, his mind racing. The situation was worse than he had feared. A retreat would only delay the inevitable. The humans had tasted victory, and they would not soon forget it. Earth, once a forgotten world, had now shown that it could stand against the Empire. This was more than just a defeat, it was a humiliation. "We've lost this battle," Carrick muttered, more to himself than to his crew. "But this is far from over." The Dreadstar, now a shadow of its former self, limped away from the battlefield, its engines barely functioning. Carrick's thoughts were consumed with the consequences of what had just transpired. The Empire would not take kindly to the news of this failure. But worse than that, Earth's unexpected rise to power would force the Empire to rethink everything. Their dominance had always been assured, unchallenged. Now they faced a new threat, one that wasn't just some small, unimportant planet, but a force that had the potential to reshape the galaxy. Meanwhile, aboard the Rising Fury Asterisk, Commander Emily Grant stood with Admiral Harrington, both watching as the remaining Imperial ships scattered into the depths of space. The battle was over, and the Empire had been soundly defeated. Earth had won, but the victory was bittersweet. The true scope of what had just occurred was still sinking in. The battle had been won, but this was just the beginning. "We did it," Grant said, her voice a mixture of disbelief and exhaustion. "We actually did it. We shattered the Empire's hold on this galaxy." Harrington nodded, his expression grave. "Yes, we've sent a message. But this won't be the end of it. The Empire will come back. They always do." His words were a stark reminder that the victory they had just won was not a final one. The Galactic Empire was vast, with countless resources at its disposal. They would not take this loss lightly. Earth's supercarrier, while powerful, had only one purpose for now: defense. But the humans had proven something crucial. They were no longer the meek species that had been left behind in the galaxy. They had become a force to be reckoned with. "We need to prepare," Harrington continued. "The Empire will send more fleets. They won't be caught off guard again. We need to fortify Earth, build our alliances, and ensure that this supercarrier is ready for whatever comes next." Grant nodded, understanding the gravity of his words. "We'll do whatever it takes, sir, but we can't do it alone. We need to show the galaxy that Earth is a power, not just some isolated planet." "There are others out there," Harrington said, his voice resolute. "We'll find them. We'll build an alliance, and when the Empire returns, we'll be ready." As the final Imperial ships vanished into the distant reaches of space, Earth's fleet turned its attention back to the planet below. The humans had proven they were no longer the forgotten race. They had proven they were a force that could not be ignored, and their message had been heard loud and clear. But even as they celebrated their victory, a deep, unsettling truth began to take root. Earth had just awakened the sleeping giant in the Empire, and the cost of their rise might be higher than they could ever imagine. The battle for Earth had ended, but the war for the galaxy was only just beginning. The days following the battle were filled with a mixture of relief and preparation. The people of Earth, still reeling from the shock of their victory, began to rebuild and fortify. The supercarrier, now fully operational, hovered in orbit above the planet, a constant reminder of humanity's newfound strength. But the victory was not without its weight. The Empire had been humiliated, and it would not take this defeat lightly. Commander Emily Grant stood on the command deck of the Rising Fury *, gazing out at the stars. The quiet hum of the ship's systems filled the air, but her mind was far from peaceful. The battle had been won, but it had come at a price. Carrick had retreated, but the Empire would return, stronger, angrier, and more determined than ever. Humanity had shown the galaxy that it was not to be underestimated, but now the true challenge began. "Commander, we've received a transmission from the outer colonies," Lieutenant Simmons said, breaking Grant's thoughts. "It's a request for an alliance, or at least a discussion. They're asking for Earth's help." Grant raised an eyebrow. The outer colonies had always been distant, disconnected from the larger power struggles in the galaxy. But now, after Earth's victory, it seemed that the tides were shifting. The galaxy was looking to Earth, not as a primitive world, but as a new power. It was an opportunity they couldn't afford to ignore. "Put them through," Grant replied, her voice calm but tinged with curiosity. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a tense-looking woman in military attire. She had the air of someone who had seen too much war, her eyes sharp and calculating. "Commander Grant, I am General Sophia Reed of the Outer Colonies. We've been monitoring the situation, and we believe that Earth has the potential to lead a coalition against the Empire. But we need your help." Grant studied the general for a moment, weighing her words. The Outer Colonies were a collection of independent systems, many of which had long been under the Empire's thumb. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and had little hope of fighting back alone. But with Earth's supercarrier and newfound military strength, things were different. The balance of power was shifting, and the Outer Colonies knew that aligning with Earth could be their only chance for survival. "We've already made our position clear to the Empire," Grant said, choosing her words carefully. "But we're not ready to form any alliances just yet. We're still rebuilding, fortifying Earth's defenses, and preparing for the next phase of this war. What exactly are you asking for, General? Reed's expression softened, a hint of desperation creeping into her voice. We need weapons, technology, and support. The Empire is regrouping, and they'll be coming for us soon. We can't afford to wait. We need Earth's leadership to bring the galaxy together. Together, we can form a coalition strong enough to resist the Empire's grip. But we can't do it alone. Grant considered the offer. It was tempting, an opportunity to unite the galaxy against the Empire, to build something that could last long after the dust of battle settled. But it was also a risk. Earth had just emerged victorious. But that victory could easily be undone if they spread themselves too thin, aligning with too many factions too quickly. The Empire would be watching, waiting for any sign of weakness. I'll bring this request to Admiral Harrington, Grant said, her voice steady. We'll discuss it further, but be prepared. If we commit to this, it'll be all or nothing. General Reed nodded, her expression resolute. We're ready. The galaxy needs leadership, and Earth is the spark that can light the fire. Don't let this moment slip away. As the transmission ended, Grant felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. The Empire was only the first obstacle. If they were to have any hope of defeating the Empire for good, they would need allies, united, strong, and willing to fight. But there were many factions out there, and not all of them could be trusted. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and Earth was still learning how to navigate its complexities. Back on Earth, Admiral Harrington stood before a large holographic map, his eyes scanning the star systems. The Empire's defeat had sent ripples through the galaxy, but it had also created uncertainty. Some worlds would rally to Earth's banner, while others would be hesitant, fearful of what an alliance with humanity might mean. But there was no time to waste. The Empire would be back, and Earth needed to be ready. We've won a battle, not a war, Harrington muttered to himself, and the real fight is just beginning. As the preparations for the next phase of the war began, Earth's leaders knew that the stakes had never been higher. The decision to unite the galaxy would come soon enough, but for now, they would focus on what they knew best: survival. And survival, in this new age of galactic conflict, would require more than just strength. It would require unity, trust, and the willingness to face down the Empire's wrath, no matter the cost. The moment of decision had arrived. Earth had faced its first battle against the Galactic Empire and emerged victorious. But now it had to face the aftermath. The Supercarrier hovered in orbit above Earth, its weapons systems still primed and ready for any future assault. But Commander Emily Grant knew that this was only the beginning of a far greater struggle. Earth had proven it could fight, but now the galaxy was watching. The battle for dominance wasn't over. It was only escalating. Admiral Harrington stood in the briefing room, the weight of the decision heavy on his shoulders. Commander Grant and General Reed had presented their case, and now it was time to act. The idea of uniting the outer colonies against the Empire was compelling, but it came with risks. The Empire had already shown its brutal resolve. Earth needed to decide whether to risk its newfound power by extending its reach across the galaxy or to keep its focus solely on defense, waiting for the inevitable next strike. We need to think carefully, Harrington began, his voice firm. Forming an alliance is a gamble. The outer colonies may be willing to fight with us, but we don't know what they'll bring to the table. Some of them may be opportunistic, only looking to secure their own interests at Earth's expense. We must tread lightly. Grant nodded, understanding the danger. But if we don't act now, we'll be left exposed. The Empire is regrouping, and their resources are vast. We've seen what they're capable of when they don't underestimate their enemies. Harrington paced the room, his gaze distant. He was a man of strategy, and this situation required more than military might. It required a deep understanding of politics, power, and the consequences of their actions. We need to unite, yes, but we must be the ones leading the charge, not following. Earth has to set the terms. If we move forward with this alliance, we must ensure we are in control, not the outer colonies. We cannot afford to be drawn into a conflict that isn't ours to lead. After a long silence, Grant spoke. The outer colonies need leadership, and Earth has shown that we have the strength to lead. The Empire has been shaken, but it hasn't been defeated. If we don't take charge now, someone else will, and we may lose the momentum we've gained. Harrington finally stopped pacing and looked at Grant, his expression hardening. I agree. The longer we wait, the more likely the Empire will come back stronger than before. We're in a position of power now, and we can't afford to squander it. Grant's hand rested on the table, fingers tapping thoughtfully. Then we move forward, but we need to make sure the galaxy understands that Earth is the central force in this new alliance. Our terms must be clear. We're not just a planet. They're fighting Asteris with Asteriskus, not for us. We need to prepare for the consequences, Harrington said. Once we make the decision to unite the galaxy, we'll have enemies everywhere, within the Empire, within the outer colonies, even within our own ranks. This war will draw every faction into play. Grant looked at him, her resolve firm. We can handle it. If we don't step up, then we let the Empire dictate the future, and I'm not willing to do that. The decision was made. Earth would lead the charge, forming an alliance with the outer colonies to face the Empire head-on. But they couldn't afford to just assemble a coalition. They had to ensure they were positioned as the dominant force, the unshakable leader. The Supercarrier was just the beginning. The resources, technology, and strategy would need to be coordinated across the galaxy. As Earth's fleet moved into action, the first steps toward building the new coalition began. Diplomatic ships were dispatched to the outer colonies and negotiations started in earnest. Each new ally brought both promise and risk. But Grant knew that it was only through unity that Earth would stand a chance of surviving the Empire's inevitable return. In the distant reaches of space, the Empire was already regrouping, licking its wounds, and devising new strategies to crush this rebellious world. But the message had been sent, loud and clear. Earth was no longer a footnote in galactic history. It was a force to be reckoned with, and the Empire would soon understand that humanity was no longer willing to kneel. As the ships of Earth's fledgling alliance left the atmosphere and headed into the stars, Grant stood at the helm, her eyes fixed on the endless void ahead. They were no longer just defending Earth. They were fighting for the future of the galaxy, and the war was far from over.